What if the moment you stop chasing someone is the exact moment they start thinking about you non-stop? Not maybe, not sometimes, every single time. Here is the thing nobody tells you about avoidance. They are wired in a way that makes your absence louder than your presence ever was. And when you go quiet, something happens inside their mind that even they cannot explain. Something that makes them reach for their phone at 2 a.m. just to stare at your name. And by the end of this, you are going to understand exactly what is happening in their head, step by step, and what you should actually do with that information. Before we go any further, I want you to drop one word in the comments right now. Just one word. Tell me if you are currently in no contact with an avoidant or thinking about it. Drop the word silence in the comments below and let me know where you are at, because your story matters and I read every single one. Now let us get into this. You have probably been in that place before. You are giving everything. You are showing up. You are texting. You are being warm, loving, available. And somehow the more you give, the more they seem to drift. They pull back. They get cold. They go distant. And you keep wondering what you are doing wrong. You keep trying harder, giving more, being more patient, more understanding, more available, and nothing works. So you finally hit a wall. You get tired, or someone tells you to just stop contacting them. And you do it, maybe reluctantly, maybe desperately, but you stop. You go quiet. And now you are sitting there wondering what is actually happening on their end. Are they even thinking about you? Do they care? Did they even notice? Oh, they noticed. And here is where it gets really interesting. To understand what happens inside an avoidant mind when you stop contacting them, you first have to understand how an avoidant mind actually works. Because it is not like yours. It does not function the same way. And once you see this clearly, everything about their behavior is going to start making a lot more sense. An avoidant person developed their attachment style for a very specific reason. Somewhere early in life, usually in childhood, they learned that needing people leads to disappointment. They learned that getting too close means getting hurt, that depending on someone means eventually being let down. So their whole system, their whole internal wiring developed a defense mechanism. Pull back before it gets painful. Create distance to stay safe. Suppress emotional needs to avoid vulnerability. This is not a choice they make consciously. This is a survival strategy that their nervous system developed before they even had the language to describe feelings. It is deeply automatic. It runs in the background of everything they do in relationships. And here is the core of it. An avoidant person has two conflicting drives happening at the same time. On one side, they have the same human need for connection that every person has. They want love. They want closeness. They want to feel wanted and valued just like you do. On the other side, they have this deeply ingrained fear that closeness equals loss of self or eventual pain. So closeness feels threatening even when it is genuinely good. These two drives are in constant tension. And when you were around, consistently available, consistently reaching out, you were feeding the second drive. Not because you did anything wrong, but because your consistent presence activated their defense system. The closeness started feeling like too much. Their instinct was to create space, to regulate the discomfort by pulling away. And you probably felt that pull away and chased harder, which activated their defense even more, which made them pull back even more. It is a loop, and it is exhausting for both of you. But then you stopped, and now something entirely different is happening. Let us walk through exactly what goes on inside their mind when the contact stops. And I want you to stay with me through all of this, because each stage builds on the last, and the picture only becomes complete when you see the whole thing. The first thing that happens when you stop reaching out is something that sounds almost insulting at first. They feel relief. Yes, relief. Do not let that hit you the wrong way. I know it stings. I know you want to hear that they immediately panicked and started missing you. But here is why the relief actually works in your favor. When you were consistently in contact, whether that was texting, calling, checking in, being emotionally available, their nervous system was in a constant low-level state of threat. Not because of you specifically as a person, but because closeness itself triggers their defense system. The consistent contact was something their wiring had to constantly manage and resist. When the contact stops, that pressure lifts. Their nervous system exhales, and they think for a brief moment that they were right all along, that space is better, that distance is where they feel okay. This relief phase does not last long, but it exists, and understanding it will save you from making a critical mistake. The mistake of reaching out again too soon just because silence feels unbearable. Because if you reach back out during this relief phase, you just confirm for them that distance works, that pulling back gets them what they want. So you have to let this phase pass, and it will, because what comes next is the first crack. After the relief settles, and this can take a few days or sometimes a couple of weeks depending on how long the relationship was, they start to notice something, the absence. And the noticing starts quietly. It is not dramatic at first, it is subtle. They reach for their phone and realize there is no message from you. They have a moment in their day. Something funny happens or something frustrating, and their first instinct is to tell you. And then they remember that you are not there right now. They see something that reminds them of you. A song, a place, a phrase. And there is a small internal pause. This is not the big emotional wave yet. This is just the first ripple. But it is significant because it is the first time they are experiencing your absence rather than managing your presence. And there is a massive difference between those two things. When you were present, they were managing. They were regulating. They were keeping distance to stay comfortable. But now you are not there to manage. And so their mind starts moving toward you instead of away from you. For the first time, maybe in a long time, the movement is inward rather than defensive. Now here is where the avoidant psychology does something really fascinating. Because their whole system is built around suppressing emotional needs, they do not immediately say to themselves, I miss this person. I want them back. I should reach out. That language is too vulnerable, too direct, too emotionally exposed. Instead, they start to rationalize the noticing. They think about you, but they wrap it in logic. They wonder how you are doing. They replay certain moments. They might look at your social media not to reconnect, but just to check, just to satisfy a curiosity they will not fully admit to themselves. This rationalization is their emotional needs trying to surface while their defense system tries to keep them under control. It is like someone standing at a door they want to open, but telling themselves they are just checking if it is locked. And what makes your silence so powerful in this phase is that it does not give them an easy answer. When you are consistent and available, they know exactly where you stand. They know you are there. They can suppress their own emotional needs because they know the door is open whenever they decide to walk through it. But when you go quiet, suddenly that certainty disappears. And uncertainty is incredibly activating for the human mind. Even an avoidant mind. Actually, especially an avoidant mind. Because here is something counterintuitive about avoidant attachment. While they fear closeness when it is actively offered, they are deeply unsettled by the removal of it. Their logic says they want space. Their nervous system says they want to know you are still there. These two things contradict each other, and when you disappear, that contradiction becomes impossible to ignore. They start to feel what psychologists sometimes describe as anxious activation, which is almost ironic, right? The avoidant person is now experiencing the anxiety that they were previously triggering in you. They are now the one checking for signs, wondering what your silence means, questioning whether something has changed. And this is where their internal narrative starts to shift. Up until now, their internal story was something like, this person wants too much from me. I need space. I feel smothered. I am better with distance. But now, without your presence to push against, that story starts to lose its footing. Because you cannot build a narrative of needing space from someone who is not there. So what are they left with? They are left with the actual feelings underneath the defense. And those feelings, when they finally surface without the defense system drowning them out, often look like this. I wonder if I pushed them away. I wonder if I was too cold. I wonder if they are okay. I wonder if they found someone else. I wonder if I made a mistake. This is the moment of genuine emotional reckoning for an avoidant. And it only becomes possible because you are no longer there feeding their need to keep distance. Now let us talk about what is happening physically in their body during this time. Because attachment is not just psychological, it is physiological. When we form a bond with someone, our nervous systems actually become attuned to each other. We regulate each other's emotional states. When you are calm, their system responds. When you are warm, their system registers it, even if their behavior does not show it. This is called co-regulation, and it is one of the most fundamental aspects of how humans bond. When you remove yourself from their life, even temporarily, their nervous system notices the absence of that co-regulation. There is an actual physiological gap. Something is missing in their day-to-day emotional landscape that they have been conditioned to, and their body registers it before their conscious mind can name it. This is why avoidants sometimes describe feeling off or restless or vaguely unsettled without being able to articulate why. They are not connecting it to the missing person consciously, but their body is absolutely connecting it. And this physical restlessness starts feeding the mental questioning. Now let us move into the next stage, because this is where things get really interesting. Around this point, which might be a week, 2 weeks, sometimes longer depending on the depth of the connection, the avoidant starts doing something that they would rarely, if ever, do when you were in contact. They start idealizing. This is not a trick or a game. This is a genuine psychological phenomenon. When someone is present and available, an avoidant focuses on what feels threatening about the closeness. They notice the pressure, the expectations, the vulnerability required. These become the dominant mental notes. But when that person is absent, those threatening elements disappear too. What is left behind is the memory of connection without the feeling of threat. And so the mind starts to remember the good parts, the warmth, the laughs, the moments that felt genuinely beautiful, the feeling of being truly known by someone. They start replaying specific scenes. A conversation you had at 2 a.m. that felt surprisingly deep. A moment when you made them laugh unexpectedly. A time when you understood something about them that nobody else seemed to get. These memories start rising to the surface. And without the daily management of your presence to push them back down, these memories carry real emotional weight. This is when the avoidant starts to genuinely miss you. Not in the intellectual, I noticed the absence kind of way from earlier, but in the felt, this hurts kind of way. And this is also when the second internal conflict begins to show itself, because missing you feels like exactly the kind of vulnerability they have spent their whole life protecting themselves from. Feeling this much, needing someone this much. It is uncomfortable in a way that goes very deep for them. It touches on the original wound, the one that taught them that needing people leads to pain. So what does an avoidant do when they start feeling something this uncomfortable? They look for a way to manage it. And they usually start with what I call the justification loop. This is where they begin cycling through reasons why what they are feeling is not what it seems. They tell themselves things like, I am just used to the routine. I do not actually miss them specifically. It is just habit. I would feel this way about anyone I stopped talking to. I am just a little lonely today. This is their defense system working hard to reframe genuine emotional need as something less vulnerable, something they can dismiss, something manageable. But here is the thing about the justification loop. It only works for so long, because the feelings keep coming. And each time they push them down and reframe them, the feelings come back a little stronger, a little more insistent, because the truth underneath is real. And real things have a way of persisting. And as the justification loop starts failing, something else begins to happen. They start asking themselves the question that changes everything. Did I mess this up? This question is massive for an avoidant because their whole protective identity is built around not needing to answer this question, around being the one who is self-sufficient, the one who does not need anyone badly enough to have messed something up by letting them go. But when your silence persists, when you do not come back with another text or another phone call or another demonstration of your feelings, they cannot answer the question by default. They cannot just say, "No, I did not mess it up." They are still there because you are not still there. And so the question lingers. It gets louder and it starts pulling at other questions underneath it. Was I too cold? Did I give them enough? Did I take them for granted? Did I push them away with my distance? Do they think I do not care? Do they think I do not feel anything? These questions are extraordinarily uncomfortable for an avoidant to sit with. They have spent years, probably their entire adult life, not having to sit with questions like this. Because their distance always kept the emotional stakes low enough that it never really mattered. But something about this particular silence from you is making it matter. And here is why. Because the length of your no contact, the steadiness of your silence, communicates something that all of your words and all of your demonstrations of love could not communicate when you were there. It communicates that you have a limit, that you will not wait indefinitely, that your presence is not unconditional, that you have a sense of your own worth that supersedes even how much you care about them. And this is something that an avoidant has almost certainly never experienced before, or at least not from someone they genuinely cared about. Because typically, the people who care about avoidance stick around. They tolerate the distance. They accept the inconsistency. They keep showing up. They keep trying. And while that shows love, it also inadvertently confirms the avoidance internal model, which says, my emotional unavailability has no real consequence. People stay regardless. But you stopping contact interrupts that model. It introduces a variable their system did not account for. It says, actually, your emotional unavailability does have a consequence, and I am willing to enforce it. And this is deeply, genuinely unsettling for them. Not in a manipulative way, not in a game-playing way, in a real, this matters to me and I might have lost it way. Now let us talk about something that happens in this phase that most people never see, because it happens entirely internally, and the avoidant will almost never talk about it openly. They start rehearsing. Mentally, privately, in the quiet moments of their day, they start thinking about what they would say if they reached out to you. They draft messages in their heads. They imagine conversations. They think about how they would explain themselves or what they would even want to say. And this internal rehearsal is significant because it shows that they are moving toward you, not away. For the first time, the motion of their mind is in your direction. They are thinking about closing the gap rather than maintaining it. But they do not send those messages. They do not make that call. And here is why. Because even with all of this internal movement, their core fear has not gone away. The fear of vulnerability, the fear of rejection, the fear that if they reach out and you do not respond the way they hope, it will confirm exactly what they have always believed, that needing people leads to pain. So they hover, they write and erase, they pick up the phone and put it down. They go to your social media and look at your profile without doing anything. They are in this in-between space where the desire to reach out is growing, but the fear of what reaching out means is still present. And this hovering phase is one of the most important moments of your no contact period. Because what you do, or more precisely, what you continue not to do during this phase makes all the difference. If you break the silence now, if you reach out during their hovering phase, you immediately relieve the tension. And you relieve the tension before they have gone all the way through the process of reckoning with their own feelings, before they have fully sat with the question of what they might lose, before they have arrived at the moment of genuine choice. By staying quiet, you are not being cruel. You are not playing a game. You are actually giving them the space to complete an internal journey that they cannot complete while you are actively present. Because your presence will always activate their defense system before they can get to the real feelings underneath. The silence is the only environment in which an avoidant can actually hear themselves. And what they start to hear in that silence is the thing that usually gets drowned out by all of their distance and all of their self-sufficient narrative. No contact affects avoidance more deeply than most people realize. At first, they may feel relief, but over time, something shifts. They begin comparing the version of you who was always chasing, always available, with the version of you who is now quiet, grounded, and no longer seeking their validation. And strangely, this version of you feels safer to them, not because playing hard to get works, but because someone who is emotionally grounded and not dependent on their attention feels less threatening and more attractive to an avoidance nervous system. Your silence forces them to imagine a future without you. Before, they assumed you would always be there. Now, they feel the weight of your absence. For some, this becomes the moment they reach out. But this is where many people make a mistake. An avoidant reaching out does not automatically mean they have changed. Missing you is real. Wanting connection is real. But desire without growth often leads back to the same painful cycle. If they come back, the dynamic must be different. Warm, but boundaried. Open, but self-respecting. No more chasing. Because real no contact is not about making someone miss you. It is about finding yourself again. You stop obsessing over their responses. You reconnect with your own life, needs, friendships, goals, and peace. And in doing so, you become capable of something healthier, whether with them or someone new. The hard truth is this: not every avoidant comes back. Some care deeply and still choose distance because vulnerability feels scarier than loss. And painful as that is, someone who feels but cannot act is still someone who cannot meet your needs. So the real question is not, will they return? It is, who are you becoming during the silence? Because if they return and have done the work, you build something different. If they do not, you leave stronger, clearer, and more whole. No contact is not punishment. It is self-respect. The goal was never to make them miss you. The goal was to stop losing yourself. If this resonated with you, make sure to subscribe to Relationship Coach for deeper insights on avoidance, healing, and healthy love. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and keep watching. Your next breakthrough might be one video away.